I sat across from him, spine straight, palms sweating just beneath the fabric of my slacks, but I kept my hands folded loosely in my lap like I'd been taught in all those ridiculous, executive presence seminars they send the women to. I wore the blazer. I had the quarterly numbers. I had the initiative. I had the loyalty, 12 years of it. I had cleaned up messes I didn't make, covered for directors who didn't know how to read a balance sheet, trained interns that now had strategic analyst on their LinkedIn bios. I had led without the title, and now I wanted the damn title. He skimmed my proposal with all the enthusiasm of a TSA agent patting down a grandma, lips curling upward into that smug managerial smirk. "You're persistent, I'll give you that," he said, tossing the packet back on his desk like it was a Chick-fil-A receipt. "But let's be honest, leadership's a lot more than being organized and dependable." I blinked once, twice. I kept my face neutral, like I was observing something through frosted glass. He went on. God, did he go on? "You're a real asset, no question," he said, in the tone one uses to describe a reliable dishwasher. "But this role, director of strategy, it needs someone who can think big, take risks, drive transformation. You're great at following through, but you're just not visionary. It's not a gender thing," he added quickly, with that casual hypocrisy men wield like a golf club. "It's just, you're not leadership material." I smiled. That tight, helium-filled smile that stretches across the face like saran wrap over a hot dish of leftovers. That kind of smile women have perfected through centuries of being told to stay pleasant while watching their futures handed to mediocre men in slightly better suits. "Thank you for the feedback," I said, standing. My voice didn't shake. My hands didn't either. "Not yet. Don't take it personally," he called after me, already picking up his phone. "You've got a great thing going. Don't rock the boat." As if the boat hadn't already run over me 3 promotions ago. Outside his office, I walked calmly to the women's restroom, locked myself in the last stall, and leaned against the door like it might keep my insides from spilling out. I didn't cry. Not then. I didn't give him that. But inside me, something split clean down the center, like the first crack in ice before the whole lake gives out. 12 years. That was the thank you. Not leadership material. I flushed the toilet to cover the sound of my breathing and stared at the stall wall. Paint peeling at the edges. Someone's initials carved into the metal like a scar. I wasn't going to quit. I wasn't going to fold. But from that moment forward, I stopped playing nice. I stopped playing their game. And I started building something of my own. Because if they were going to humiliate me for not fitting their mold, I was going to make sure the next time they saw me, I was holding the fucking chisel that I walked out of that building like a ghost, silent, unreadable, the kind of woman men call professional, when she's bleeding inside but doesn't let it stain her blouse. No scene. No outburst. Just a polite nod to the receptionist, who barely looked up from her phone. I got in my car, buckled the seatbelt with mechanical grace, and started the engine with hands that hadn't fully unclenched since that bullshit meeting. The doors sealed. The world outside muffled itself. I was alone. And that's when the screaming began. Not out loud, no, I didn't get that luxury. Women like me have to keep our breakdowns internal, pretty, and plausible. But in my head, it was a symphony of snapped bones and shattered glass. Every sentence he said played back on a loop like a cursed radio station from hell. "You're not visionary. Don't take it personally. You've got a great thing going." What I had was a team of 7 who only functioned because I stayed late enough to write their damn reports. I had sleepless nights spent fixing strategies he pitched and I executed. I had 3 departments funneled through my inbox like sewage pipes. And now I was being told I lacked leadership presence. What the fuck does that even mean? I laughed. Not the elegant kind, not the office-safe chuckle you drop in meetings to seem likable. It was the kind of laugh you do when you've just discovered your whole life has been one long practical joke, and you were the only one who didn't get the memo. Not visionary, I muttered to the windshield. Right. Because having an actual plan is too aggressive. And God forbid I interrupt Steve during his 6th goddamn tangent about crypto. My fingers tightened on the steering wheel until my knuckles bleached. The tears came, not the sobbing kind, but those hot, angry ones that trickle out like acid. The ones you wipe away fast so they don't smudge your war paint. By the time I hit the freeway, the sadness had scorched itself into something darker, something useful. Sarcastic rage. That glorious, sharp-edged fury that makes you want to set the whole system on fire with a stapler and a bottle of cheap vodka. I didn't fantasize about quitting. I fantasized about staying. About smiling sweetly as I watched the ivory tower they built on my bones collapse floor by floor. They thought I'd walk away. No, esweti. I was going to bury them with politeness and receipts. If they wanted to pretend I was invisible, fine. I'd become the storm they didn't see coming. Let the visionless bitch show them what real vision looks like. That I didn't pour a glass of wine. I didn't call a friend. I didn't crawl into bed or cry in the shower like some tragic HR poster girl. I walked straight into my home office, kicked off my heels, and opened the drawer labeled just in case. Because some women keep emergency snacks. Some of us keep receipts. I didn't know exactly what I was looking for, but I knew the smell of rot. And that office? That company? It stank like a landfill under a summer sun. So I started digging. 12 years of work left a digital footprint the size of Godzilla's. Emails, spreadsheets, memos, budget proposals, Slack logs, late-night forwarded threads flagged with please delete after reading. I had archived it all. Not out of paranoia, but out of the quiet desperation that comes from always knowing your place in the hierarchy is conditional. That one wrong breath, and they'd toss you like expired yogurt. Well, expired yogurt was now curating her own revenge exhibit. Click. Download. Screenshot. Print. Highlight. My office transformed into a war room. Paper piles like bodies, yellow post-its like bullet holes, the soft glow of the screen burning at my retinas. And then I found it. A reimbursement form filed under travel expenses, Q4, but tagged with a project code that had already closed 6 months prior. Curious. The attached invoice was for client outreach dinner, but I recognized the restaurant. It was across the street from a strip club, and that particular client didn't exist in our CRM. I cross-referenced it with a thread from our finance director, something he forwarded me months ago by mistake, asking if I could clean up the metadata before upload. At the time, I thought nothing of it. Now I saw it for what it was, laundering. My fingers flew across the keyboard, hunting for patterns. Misallocated funds. Duplicate charges. Departmental ghost projects. Travel logs that didn't align with known meetings. And then the smoking gun. A compliance report submitted to the board last year. Full of glossy language and fabricated metrics. It looked professional, convincing even. But I had the original draft in my archives. The one I had worked on, where the numbers were real. And didn't look half as pretty. His signature. Bottom right. 3 strokes of ink that turned a lie into company gospel. I sat back, heart drumming like war drums in my chest, and smiled. Not the brittle kind from before. This one had teeth. Pain was a terrible thing. But pain with a spreadsheet? That was a weapon. They thought I was a secretary with a grudge. They forgot I was the system's memory. And now, I had the kind of ammunition that didn't just end careers. It sank empires that I didn't sleep that night. I didn't even sit down. Adrenaline replaced coffee. Fear replaced fatigue. But I was sharp, sharper than I'd felt in years. This wasn't impulsive rage. It was a quiet, methodical undoing. Not a breakdown, but a blueprint. I laid it all out like an architect designing the collapse of a tower. Because this time I wasn't building. I was unbuilding. Every document got duplicated, sanitized, scrubbed of metadata, timestamped, encrypted. I bought 3 burner phones from a 24-hour gas station 2 towns over. I downloaded a military-grade VPN from a forum that looked like it was run by someone named Hexfiend. I created dummy Gmail accounts, routed through bouncing proxies across 3 continents. By dawn, I was a ghost with a printer. The packages were meticulous. Evidence binders labeled with sticky tabs and cross-references, just enough context to show negligence but not so much that it screamed vendetta. I split the evidence between multiple parties. 1 manila envelope to the state's Department of Regulatory Affairs, 1 USB drive to the SEC's whistleblower tip portal, 1 thick packet addressed, carefully anonymously, to the board of directors. But the real prize? That went to our largest client. They'd just renewed a $12 million contract. I sent them a taste. Just enough to question the books. To crack the surface. I dropped the mail at a blue box 6 neighborhoods away. Walked. Wore gloves. No camera in sight. I deleted everything from my personal devices and wiped my printer logs clean with a tool that came with a warning label in Russian. Back home, I sat on the floor in my living room, in the dress pants I never took off, staring at the blank wall like it might blink first. Now I had to wait. No more control. No more tweaks. Just silence. Every vibration from my phone jolted me like a lightning bolt to the spine. Every knock on the door made my breath hitch. Because even when you're right, revenge makes you a criminal in someone else's story. But I didn't feel guilty. I felt surgical. Precise. Like the universe had handed me a scalpel and whispered, "Do what they won't." Still, the fear was real. There were cameras I might have missed. Metadata I could have missed. A signature I might have forgotten to blur. A login I didn't cover with a proxy. It would only take one breadcrumb, one missed detail, and everything could shatter in the other direction, with me underneath it. But I'd made my peace. They wanted me small, forgettable, a cog. They'd made the mistake of forgetting that cogs remember. And now I was the grind in the machine. The earthquake didn't come all at once. It started with a tremble, soft, almost imperceptible if you weren't trained to feel fault lines. But I'd lived too long in the aftershocks of corporate bullshit to miss a shift in air pressure. By Wednesday morning, the mood in the office had changed. Subtle at first, an email thread marked urgent, with no subject line. 2 men from legal whispering too loudly in the hallway. Then freezing like deer when I passed. Janine from marketing had a meeting canceled last minute, with one of our biggest international clients. Her face was still red from whatever she'd heard over the phone. I sipped my coffee. No sugar. No emotion. By noon, the signs grew louder. A flurry of requests for Q4 compliance documentation. A private Slack channel blinked to life, filled with panicked mid-level managers pretending to understand what material misstatement meant. Wordless glances. A lot of doors suddenly closed. No casual gossip in the break room. No Spotify playlists humming from desks. Even the air conditioning sounded nervous. And then came him, the boss. "Mister, you're not leadership material." He stormed through the hallway with his jaw clenched like it owed him money, barking orders to people who'd stopped listening 3 promotions ago. His tie was crooked. His hair, always smugly parted, was now desperate. Fingers raked through it like it had personally betrayed him. I watched from my desk as he demanded a damage assessment and spat the phrase client confidence management strategy like it could plug a bullet hole. It was happening. I had expected it to feel like revenge. But what I felt was proof. Proof that I wasn't crazy. That I hadn't imagined the corruption under all those glossy Q3 reports and champagne handshakes. That my silence hadn't been cowardice. It was strategy. That everything I'd endured, the gaslighting, the glass ceilings, the ideas stolen and reshaped into male speak, had led to this. Still, I kept my face still, my inbox tidy, my words clipped and professional. I was a model employee, timely, poised, discreet. Not a single extra blink. Noise mirk. Just enough eye contact to be forgettable. At 3:42 p.m., I overheard it. "Gold. Someone sent the board everything," whispered Mark from Ops, standing just too close to his cube mate. "Not just compliance stuff, client invoices, falsified audits, the whole damn zoo. I heard half the teams being frozen out of accounts." His cube mate grunted. "You think it's HR?" "No way. HR's in panic mode. This is surgical. Like, someone who knew where to dig." They both laughed nervously. I clicked my spreadsheet open and typed a formula. My hands didn't shake. But my pulse, oh, my pulse was alive. Not scared this time. Not cornered. Coiled. They were trying to patch holes in a ship that was already underwater. And I was the silent current pulling it all down. Every fake smile they ever forced on me. Every time they credited my ideas to someone else. Every "you should smile more and don't rock the boat." I smiled now. And the boat was sinking. By Friday. The emails took on a new perfume. Panic cologne, with top notes of desperation and undertones of performative empathy. Subject lines like, "Let's reconnect?" "Checking in, exciting opportunity. Let's talk about your future here." I read them like trashy soap opera synopses, sprawled on my couch in sweatpants with a chipped mug of cold tea and a bag of popcorn I never intended to share. Each new message played out like an unintentional comedy. Plot twist starring men who once forgot my name now begging to discuss your unique skill set and redefining your role moving forward. One particularly grotesque email was from the CFO. He had never once looked me in the eye during meetings. Now he wanted to offer me a restructured compensation plan and a tailored leadership trajectory. His tone tried to mimic familiarity, like we were old war buddies instead of coworkers who'd shared 200 square feet of air and zero respect. I didn't respond. I archived the emails into a folder I titled, "The Shrine of Oh Now I Matter." For science. For joy. For the moment I'd need to remind myself that silence is often louder than shouting. Then came the texts. I hadn't given many people my number. But still there they were. From Rachel in HR. "Hey, totally weird question. Do you still have that Q3 financial alignment deck? Just trying to locate it, LOL, smiley face." From Chris in Client Strategy. "Hope you're doing okay. Miss seeing your face around here." From the boss himself. "Please call me. We should talk. Let's fix this." No punctuación. Just frantic digital breathlessness. And then the cherry on top, Slack. Someone must have forgotten to revoke my guest access to the internal channels. I didn't touch it. But I watched. Like a phantom. Watched them implode. Watched the meetings called and rescheduled. The doc edits. The power grabs. The gossip. The silence. Then came a direct message. From Mallory. "Quiet girl. Analytics. Always stayed late. Always looked like she wanted to scream but had learned to swallow it." Mallory. "Hey. I know you probably don't want to hear from anyone at HQ right now. But just so you know, we miss you. He's drowning." I stared at her message. My first reaction was laughter. A long, wheezing, joyless laugh that startled my cat off the couch. He's drowning. As if the ocean hadn't been poured by his own hand. But beneath the humor was something rawer. Older. Something like grief. Because for all the chaos I had unleashed, what they didn't know, what Mallory couldn't know, was that I hadn't just lost a job. I had lost a belief. A belief that if I worked hard enough, stayed quiet enough, proved myself enough, I'd eventually be seen, recognized, valued. Instead, I became valuable only in absence. Now they missed the glue after breaking the vase with their own fists. I stared at Mallory's message. Typed. "I know." Deleted it. Typed again. "Don't let them pull you down with him." Deleted that too. Finally, I wrote. "I see everything now. That's the difference. Thanks for the message." And I logged off Slack. For good. They say power is intoxicating. But let me tell you something they don't put in the Harvard Business Review. There's a special kind of high that comes from watching the people who once dismissed you beg through a voicemail. It started with the emails. Then the texts. But now they were calling. The first one came from HR. A woman named Susan, who once rolled her eyes during a wellness seminar when I asked if we had maternity protections for contract staff. Now she was suddenly very invested in my unique journey. "Hi, just reaching out to chat. Whenever you're ready. We're really hoping we can build a new chapter together. Leadership is taking everything very seriously. This is a chance to rebuild. With you at the center." Delete. The second call came from a department head who once forgot to invite me to my own team's planning retreat. "We'd love to hear your thoughts on a potential chief operations role. The title's yours if you want it. Total autonomy. Flexible structure. Whatever you need." I pressed end before he finished autonomy. I was learning to enjoy the sound of things collapsing without needing to lift a finger. And then 3:14 a.m. My phone rang in the dark. It was him. I didn't answer, but he left a voicemail, his voice hoarse, stripped of arrogance. I imagined him in his corner office, sleeves rolled up, tie long discarded, hair rumpled like the illusion of control he used to wear. "I know you're angry. I don't blame you. You were always 10 steps ahead of everyone here. I didn't see it, and that's on me. But we can fix this. Let's talk. No more bullshit. You want the strategy division? It's yours. Full C-suite placement, stock options, hell, whatever it takes. He paused. We can't do this without you. I sat up in bed. Phone glowing in the darkness like an offering. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I simply listened to him fold. All those years I had begged for a seat at the table. Politely, professionally, invisibly. And now that the table was on fire, they wanted me to come back and pour the wine. I tapped delete. Not out of cruelty, but out of clarity. Because here's the truth they never want you to know. When they say we can't do this without you, what they really mean is, we didn't care until we were scared. And I was done being their fear-induced fantasy. I wasn't their redemption arc. I was the consequence. There was no joy in it. No victory lap. Just a cold, clean silence where my dignity had once begged for scraps. I turned off the phone, set it on the nightstand, and stared at the ceiling. This wasn't a win I could post about. But it was the first time in years I slept without grinding my teeth. That IT hit the news on a Tuesday. Mid-morning. Not a whisper. Not a rumor. A goddamn headline. Tech firm under federal scrutiny for fraudulent filings and financial misrepresentation. And beneath it, like a final exhale, sources confirm multiple executive resignations and pending legal action. I read it once, then again. The truth looked surreal in serif font. 3 major clients pulled their contracts within 48 hours. 2 regulators issued formal statements. 1 investor called it a catastrophic breach of fiduciary trust. And the man who told me I wasn't leadership material? He stepped down to focus on his family. Right. I didn't go on LinkedIn. I didn't gloat. I didn't send a single "told you so" text. Instead, I sat at the kitchen table with a bowl of cereal and watched CNBC analysts speculate about systemic oversight failures in an office I had once kept afloat by sheer force of competence and caffeine. I watched as emails leaked, screenshots from internal Slack threads, anonymous quotes from mid-tier employees. We all knew something was off. Someone even posted a blurred photo of my old office, desk empty, chair pushed in, a caption that read simply, "Where it started." I didn't comment. I just saved the image. My own little war trophy. And still the chaos unraveled. Executives vanished. The CFO went on leave. The board released a statement that might as well have been smoke signals from a burning mansion. The building itself was swarmed, regulators, auditors, lawyers like crows picking apart a carcass in tailored suits. Meanwhile, the employees, the ones who'd smiled through gritted teeth during staff photos, were left wondering how the empire turned to ash overnight. The irony? They still didn't know it was me. I was the ghost in the machine. The quiet hand that rewired the fuse box and walked away before it sparked. And yet, in the wake of it all, something hollow throbbed beneath my ribs. I had won. By every metric. The man who humiliated me was publicly shamed, his name dragged across headlines and press statements. The institution that ignored me bled out in real time. Justice, retribution, exposure, it was all there. But when the camera zoomed out, I was alone. No aplausos. No parade. No one to whisper, "We see you now." Because I'd scorched the very earth I had once called home. Every step forward meant stepping over ashes. Vindication is never as warm as you think. It burns. But still, I didn't regret it. Some fields have to burn before anything real can grow. And I wasn't done planting. The world didn't end with a bang, it ended with a vibration. A quiet hum from the phone on my nightstand, jittering across the wood like a dying insect. Again, and again, and again. I ignored it at first. I was reading, sipping lukewarm coffee, letting sunlight do that thing it does when it spills just right through the blinds, turning ordinary air into something almost holy. But the vibrations didn't stop. I finally reached over, lazily, thumbing the screen to life. 82 missed calls. 12 from HR. 9 from legal. 1 from a blocked number I could only assume was him. The rest? Names I hadn't heard in weeks. People who used to forget to reply all when it mattered. People who used to take credit in meetings and pass blame in hallways. Now, they wanted my voice. My absolution. My guidance. I smirked. Not the cruel kind, the cold kind. The kind forged in years of being overlooked, underpaid, over-relied on, and underestimated. The kind that doesn't ask for validation, because it is validation. I didn't answer. I didn't even swipe. Instead, I turned the phone face down. Silence. Not dramatic. Not performative. Just final. Because there was nothing left to say. No speech. No mic drop. No revenge fantasy monologue. I had done what I came to do. And I hadn't just dismantled their house. I had made sure the blueprints were unrecognizable. They wouldn't rebuild. Not with the same lies. Not on my back again. I stood up, barefoot, the floor warm beneath me. Outside, the world carried on. A delivery truck passed. A dog barked. Somewhere, a coffee grinder whirred to life. But inside me, everything had changed. I thought about all the times they called me too emotional. Not assertive enough. Too aggressive. Not a team player. A little intense. They were right. I wasn't suited for the promotion. I was suited for their destruction. And I didn't burn bridges. I dismantled the terrain. Salted the soil. Made sure nothing like them could ever grow again. That was the thing they never understood. Some women aren't interested in climbing ladders. Some of us are busy pulling them apart rung by fucking rung. And when we're done, we leave quietly. No fireworks. No press release. Just a silence so sharp it echoes louder than any explosion. And in that silence, they finally hear us.